So I thought something was very cute from this account called Awaken with Sophie. So she says, like, let's say we want to unite the science, the psychology, and the spirit. So, like, the body, the mind, and the spirit. Or the heart, whatever. So, unregulated nervous system is self-sabotage, is energetic block. Neuroplasticity is emotional rewiring, is bloodline clearing. Quantum physics is mind-body connection, is universal unity. Epigenetics is inherited belief systems, is cellular healing. So again, like science, flow state, psychology, optimal performance, spirituality is divine alignment. Science, somatic intelligence is psychology, body-based awareness, is spirituality, soul wisdom. Mirror neurons is pattern recognition, is shared consciousness. Circadian rhythm is behavioral looping, is divine timing. Mathematical order is cognitive mapping, is sacred geometry. Quantum entanglement is codependency, is karmic contracts. In the Tanya, the Alter Rebbe teaches that the heart is the seat of the emotions, the warmth and the abode of the fire element. In contrast to an emotional person, the demeanor of an intellectual person, where the brain is the seat of the cold, which we might call calm or measured intellect, and thus the source of the water element. Zohar, Pinchas, the dust returns to the earth as it was, and that's from Koheles 12:7. So the Zohar, written by the Holy Zohar from Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, Zohar means light, so it's like the enlightenment text. In the parsha of Pinchas, what that means is in the portion related to the 5 books of Moses, in the part that we call Pinchas, which is a few chapters or whatever it is. So the Zohar brings different parts together. He brings in something from, or the circle. There was a holy group. It wasn't just one person that the teachings are given. They are given in different people's names, and sometimes without even any of them, and sometimes just called the faithful shepherd, sometimes the old sage. Anyway, so Koheles, written by King Zalman, is Ecclesiastes 12:7. The dust returns to the earth as it was. This is supposed to teach us, according to the Zohar, that the wicked person is afflicted and has a bad woman, the evil inclination, like a leprosy. What's the remedy? To divorce, to be healed. Another thing we learned from the Zohar is one woman in Egypt gave birth to 60,000 souls at one birth. Who's that? Moshe. Because it says in devarim 3:26, and Hashem was angry at me for your sakes. Where vayitaber, angry, for anger is like conception, ibor. So the faithful shepherd saved 60,000 in Yisrael in a number of incarnations. Next, a righteous man wandering place to place, house to house, is like someone going through many incarnations till he achieves perfection in the world to come. In Shemos, Exodus 20, verse 6, it says, but showing mercy to thousands of generations of those that love me. But a wicked person, that's the quote, okay. But a wicked person only is allowed 3. However, he repents. Exile atones for transgression. The righteous don't return to their dust. That's from the Mishnah. Okay, the next part says the mystics offer a pearl. Well, I don't have to say the Mishnah because Mishnah doesn't say which part. Just to say it's like from the oral Torah that was written down, which we could say is like the Zohar, but the Zohar is really like a different category in how it is a more esoteric, secretive, mystical kind of level of learning. The mystics offer a pearl to their pupils by hint, and then if they don't understand, by jest. An example is, they say, in other words, first they give them a pearl of wisdom, and then if they don't get it, they make a joke. They teach in a joke. So what's an example of like a joke that they would teach? A man says a single egg overthrew 60 villages because the egg was dropped by a bird flying in the air and struck the many villages. The jester said, no, that's not what happened. That's not what he said, but that the man wrote 60 villages, like on a paper. And the bird dropped an egg that erased the words. Basically, to think about things differently. Now, there are one more thing I want to share from the Zohar. A different part, the Zohar is also divided up differently. So in a different way by others that divide up the Zohar, it's called Zohar 1, 49a. The truth is that the letters of God's name that represent the feminine divine. So in Hebrew, you would say that this is not written like the way that we would say he. The truth is he is called Asherah, is the quote. What does that mean? Here it says the letter of God's name is that it represents a divine feminine. And in the Zohar, it's called many things. Malchus, which is the feminine principle that receives, like a queen. There's like the lower mother, upper mother. Malchus is more of the, like the lower mother, but really as a queen, like who receives her royalty. She receives from everybody above. And then there's the matronita, which is like the patriarch. It's like almost like the matriarch, but really like a queen, like a not fancy, but like a very powerful, very, very powerful. And then there's the Shekhinah, which is the divine indwelling, or the divine feminine, or just Hashem in the embodiment. So there's a few there's a few accounts on Instagram where I wanted to share. So about women, I just shared about women. So this is Cascada Marina, Cascadamarina. Be kind to your woman partner so she can think thoughts for your success without pain or impediment. Help her understand that you need her support, and the respect you desire and deserve are to be mutually cultivated. Then eternal echo.xp. When you're raised in silence, emotional coldness feels normal. No hugs, loving words, problems are ignored or unresolved. So warmth might feel unfamiliar and distance feels safe. The reason I'm reading this is because we talked a couple minutes ago about I read about how in the Tanya we learned that the person with emotions are more like warmth and the person more intellectual is more like cold. So we do learn that sometimes people escape into the mind from the heart because it feels too, like the warmth doesn't feel familiar to be open-hearted, to live in a heart-connected way. And sometimes I'm accepting we cannot change a person if they're more emotional, less emotional. Next, withholding affection. Affection feels awkward because you never saw it. No, I love you, holding hands, or reassurance. And learning, the person learned to equate love with silence, but love without expression slowly starves, for example, a marriage, or we'd say a relationship. So it needs warmth, otherwise it is so cold it withers away. Look how cold it is in New York City right now. And finally, embodied with Michelle, capacity. This is what I like, this is what I need, this is my bandwidth, communicating needs and limits. This is someone who has capacity with clarity. You need to have capacity to be able to do repair. So repair is actually the clearest window into capacity. High capacity is a person who can circle back, apologize, take ownership, clarify, make amends, re-regulate after rupture, versus a low capacity is someone who blames, minimizes, and pretends. Like, even if they say yes, they actually resent you later. They pretend nothing happened. They need you to regulate them. They stonewall, they get defensive or derail the topic. This is avoidant, vague, inconsistent, ambiguous. That would be low capacity. People who say, I'm fine, or whatever, or I don't care, or I don't know. Interest is not enough to create repair. You need skills. So it doesn't mean someone's not interested in you. It means they have low capacity. Are you available for that or not? And that's all. Is it? Well, I want to share a little bit about what could happen if there's issues in the heart where we have dependencies with someone, or we're not being honest about our capacity or the other person's capacity. And so I did workshop it in a 12-step meeting about relationships, and I was going into my heart and I realized Hashem, my higher power, could always give me the freedom to be willing to be rejected, because that would be in the heart. It could be, we're saying it's like warm because it's intense and you can't go into your mind. It's like you actually have to feel the rejection. So the ability to believe in the goodness in someone and their will to be good to me. And also this idea that feeling humiliated or powerless, or that my desires were used against me, could cause a person like me to not have the vulnerability and trust, but rather to have resentments and want to keep score, wanting evenness. It's natural to want to be chosen though, and it's natural for someone to want me to choose them. Just there has to be that safety. It can't be that anyone's being humiliated or their power is being taken away, for vulnerability and trust, right? And sometimes people mistake the love, thinking sex is a way to get love, and that will often cause the person had to have sex in order to have love, and then they end up feeling powerless and humiliated. So I then wanted to go even deeper. Before we become sexual, we're like children, and I'm not saying children are not sexual. That's not something I should even try to broach a topic right now. But my point is more about the fact that because like children grow up to be adults, so inherently we could say their sexuality is being formed as a child. But like shame about shame could be like, because the private could be like with shame, or it could be like something that is like your privacy doesn't have to be like your shame, in other words. So I thought, like, there's a lot of layers to this. It's about being lovable, acceptable, beautiful, despite maybe being idealistic or self-righteous, or even versions of us that I mentioned, like the keeping score, like punishing, retaliating. So I went to, like, what I'm doing here is talking about what I went to a 12-step meeting on the inner child, like becoming like healthier rather than maybe growing up in a dysfunctional home. So now, if we feel humiliated and powerless, and we're going back and seeing the past humiliations, the mortifications, we realize we had resentments. So currently can show up as emotions that can give us wisdom that we missed in the past. And, through regret and change, we can actually get that morality and that honesty instead of the misguided perceptions where we make up stories about others, whether it's for alienation or connection. Like when not necessarily is it true for others, like, for example, like we all, but we don't all, not necessarily. And also we take responsibility instead of codependence. So codependence is attachment, expectations. So we might be giving a costume, but really it's like, we might give this costume self, but really we're like, it's like, in other words, we might act like we're a giver, but it's a costume because really we're taking. It's just dressed up, as taking, instead of the idea of one hand washing the other, which is not codependency. That would be two-sided, but it would still be like possibly using. It's not necessarily both people fully invested. It's like the first layer of interdependence is I wash your hand, you wash my hand. And we admit we need each other, can't do it alone. And that's already enough. That's the first level. And then as we move into it, we start to recognize how fulfilling it is to like really give our best, and we could have the best be brought out in us, and also do that for others. Like become in relationships where the lovability of the other person inspires us to want to give. And instead of abusing and denial and justifications and excuses instead for being irresponsible and the behavior that's disrespectful and dishonest, it's really about being afraid of being unsupported later or feeling sorry for them. But it's at our expense. Why aren't we feeling sorry for ourselves? Why aren't we being good company for ourselves? So this is like, this is like really the inner work of, like not consuming other people's portions, even their problems. And it could also be their care, their attention, their energy, and also not starving my own soul. I have to do meditation, movement, activities, reflection, visualizing, socializing, and check-ins. So maybe we find people have low capacity, or they're irresponsible or dishonest, but we're, not dependent on them, and we don't have to make excuses. And then, of course, most importantly, we don't use the worst moments as a reflection of the whole, because when we're rebuilding our identity, instead of like, I won't be okay on my own, I'll need someone later, I'll be unsupported, so I have to sell out. Instead, I'm very capable, I can handle this. We don't want to blow things out of proportion. I feel like that's a really big one. Okay, so we're going to stop here, but because this is the video I'm going to be leaving before Shabbos, even though it's really the night before usually when I do it, but I'm going away, I'm going to be traveling this weekend, so I wanted to do it in advance. I want to also give all my blessings for Shabbos. And so may we live in reality and truth with honest expressions, with honest expression and reasonable expectations of ourselves and others. May our gifts and offerings, our cup overflow, and be appreciated, and reciprocated. May we have healthy self-esteem and self-worth and self-company and self-entertainment. And instead of saying feel sorry for yourself, I'll say it in self-compassion. And livelihood and income and work, clarity and success and enjoyment, receiving royal treatment with grace and dignity, fulfillment, connection, attention, pampering, May we have high capacity and proud of our growth and progress, and may we be taken care of and satisfied and valued and respected and seen and heard and invested in and loved and explored and desired. May we not be afraid to die. This could be the, in body or identity. I feel like that's also related to releasing outdated roles and dynamics, releasing the past. And it's actually truly living, to really truly live. May we honor our standards, our needs, our sensitivities, our limits. May we not be comparing ourselves to others. And may we walk away from when it's not aligned. And may we have cleared away all the entitlement, arrogance, suspicion, ungratefulness, and cold-heartedness, discounting, being dismissive, feeling like we're, above the law. Maybe that this week release, I won't say above the law, actually. We'll leave it at discounting. May the arrogance, suspicion, entitlement, ungratefulness, dismissiveness, cold-heartedness, and discounting may be cleared away. And I think that will lead into the next level of not thinking we're above the law. Okay, because that would be probably for next week, starting on the Sunday. So, wishing everybody an amazing Shabbos with excellent refreshments and delicious edibles and good company and good rest and peace and joy and a good week ahead. Have a good Shabbos.